The brightest and largest object in our night sky, the Moon, the only natural satellite of the Earth. The strong willed man conquered that moon not once but 6 times. On July 20, 1969, millions of people gathered around their televisions to watch two US astronauts do something no one had ever done before. Wearing bulky spacesuits and backpacks of oxygen to breathe, Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin became the first human beings to walk on the moon. American Space Agency's Apollo 11 was the space flight that first landed humans on the moon. NASA officials selected Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins as the astronauts who would make the historic trip from Earth on Apollo 11. Now we are seeing that they are ascending to the Apollo 11 through lift. Apollo 11 was powered by a 110-meter high Saturn V rocket. 1969, July 16th, Indian time 7:02 at night, Apollo 11 lifted off from Kennedy Space Center, USA, carrying a weight of 3,200 tons. A huge crowd witnessed this journey. The maximum speed of Apollo 11 was 40,000 kilometers per hour. When it reached the moon's attraction range, the retro rockets were fired and slowed down the speed considerably. A retro rocket is a rocket engine providing thrust opposing the motion of a vehicle, thereby causing it to decelerate. The lunar module and the command module are the two important parts of Apollo 11. Lunar module is the lunar vehicle and command module is the vehicle for passengers to return to the Earth. Before touching down, the three men split up. Michael Collins boarded Apollo 11's command module, the Columbia, where he would remain in orbit around the moon. Armstrong and Aldrin boarded Apollo 11's lunar module, the Eagle, and began to descend to the moon's surface. The Earth is seen as a crescent in the distance. The Eagle made a risky landing in a shallow moon crater named the Sea of Tranquility. Most people watching the landing on TV did not know that the Eagle had only 20 seconds of landing fuel left at this point. The entire surface of the moon is covered with dust. This dust is known as regolith. This is a crater on the lunar surface. NASA scientists are waiting for that rare moment. After 6.5 hours pass, the pair inside the Eagle prepared to exit the module. As mission commander, Armstrong stepped out first and became the first person on the moon. This miraculous scene was also seen on the NASA's television screen. Armstrong walked slowly forward, holding onto a rope attached to the lunar module. Armstrong is collecting soil from the moon. Armstrong's dress is known as space suit. A spacesuit is a garment worn to keep a human alive in the harsh environment of outer space, vacuum, and temperature extremes. A communication cap is worn under the astronaut's helmet that contains earphones and microphones. The cap connects to the radio on the spacesuit and enables the astronaut to talk to other crew members and mission control. All this time, Aldrin was inside the lunar module. 20 minutes later, Aldrin climbed down the ladder and joined his partner. They planted the American flag on the surface. President Richard Nixon called to congratulate the astronaut. They went back to work, collecting samples of rocks and dust. After over 2 hours, the astronauts brought 21.6 kg of material back onto the lunar module and prepared to rejoin Collins. It was time to go home. The lunar module was dropped down to the lunar surface. The command module took off for the Earth. When it reached 16 km above the Earth, with the help of a parachute from the command module, they landed safely in the Pacific Ocean. A helicopter, ship, and security forces were waiting for them. The helicopter rescued them and brought them to the ship Hornet. The American authorities welcomed them with great enthusiasm. Their spacecraft, the Apollo 11 command module, Columbia, as well as the 49 pounds of lunar samples they brought back were likewise kept in quarantine, which was to last 21 days from the time they were first exposed to lunar material. US President Richard Nixon congratulated them. Including Apollo 11 mission, a total of 12 men have walked on the moon. Apollo 15, 16, 17 crews drove a lunar rover jeep on the moon. The last crewed mission to the moon was Apollo 17, taking place between 7th and 19th December 1972. Dr. Harrison Smith, the only scientist to set foot on the moon, and Eugene Cernan were the travelers in Apollo 17. It was a 12-day mission and broke many records. The longest spacewalk, the longest lunar landing, and the longest lunar samples brought back to the Earth. The 379.5 kg of rocks and soil brought back from the moon by man is the largest piece of evidence of human travel to the moon. The US has transferred these samples to more than 150 foreign countries, including India. Scientists are conducting more and more studies on these samples.
Mr. Armstrong, I do realize that when you were on the moon, you had very little time for gazing upwards. But could you tell us something about what the sky actually looks like from the moon, the sun, the earth, the stars, if any, and so on?
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be seen, although there have been some reports of seeing planets. I myself did not see planets from the surface, but I suspect they might be visible. The Earth is quite beautiful from space and from the moon. It looks quite small and quite remote, but it's very blue and covered with white lace.